welcome firstly to our Helix webinar series. This is our Smart Reporting to Helix Dashboards workshop. Some of you may have joined previous ones. We are trying to run these at least once a month. Very conscious that we've got a lot of customers that still need to migrate. Please be aware this is an interactive session. We've got quite a lot to go through today, so we will be sharing some slides, some demos. Just a reminder that there is the Q&A section of Zoom, so if you have any questions during the presentation, we have panelists and also support that join us to answer those questions, and then towards the end we will open up for live Q&A. I'm going to be joined today with our presenters, Nikhil Deshpande, Abhinay and Ajinkya, who will be presenting various parts of this workshop today. Before we get started, a couple of other reminders as well. We also have a Helix Dashboard session coming up. Nikhil will be running this session next week. So for those that haven't already registered, there is a direct link. We will be sending the slides out, and there's also the QR code that you can scan now. A reminder, I'm hoping everyone's done their academy training. This was 2 sets of training, which was for 4 hours of free training. They are on our next page. So hopefully you've already completed those. If there's any problems, then please reach out to either myself or Nikhil. A reminder, we have got some roadmap content that we'll be sharing. So this is just our legal notice. If you can just take a few minutes to read this. And then we'll get started. So Nikhil, if I can hand over to you to get started.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome to this workshop on migrating from smart reporting to Helix Dashboards. Since you're here, it's evident that you already use smart reporting for your reporting needs. In this workshop, we're going to look at why BMC Helix Dashboards is the right reporting tool for BMC Helix customers. So let's start with service ops. What exactly is service ops? For far too long, there have existed within corporate IT functions two functional units that have worked as silos: IT service management and operations management. The service management side of IT manages everything from the service desk to various ITIL practices such as incident management, change enablement, problem management, knowledge management, and so on. Whereas the operations management side of IT manages everything from performance management, events, metrics, capacity, and so on. However, these two units have not worked together as one, and for IT functions to realize their goals, there's an urgent need to break down the walls between these two organizations. We need to enable them to work as one cohesive unit that empowers your business to be more competitive in the marketplace and enable your company to compete with other established enterprise companies as well as nimble startups. Service ops is about bringing IT service management and operations management together, and your reporting and dashboarding solution needs to be an integral part of this service ops strategy. Line of business is also an integral part of service ops. For the past several years, we find, based on our discussions with customers, that everyone has taken this, they have extended IT service management to their lines of business. Today, anyone in a company who's not in the business of serving external customers is in the business of serving internal customers. So everybody has customers to serve, and it helps to align with established processes and practices of customer service management. All of this is an integral part of the BMC Helix service ops strategy. Can we go to the next slide, please? Can you click once? Once more? Yeah. Now, go back to the previous slide.
Is it showing correct? Slide
Yes.
7?
Thank you. Thank you. So BMC Helix Dashboards is built on Grafana, which is a state-of-the-art technology for dashboards and reports. It helps you consume information in an action-oriented way. What does this mean? Whenever anyone runs a report, actually they want to have insights into their business processes. In service management or operations management, typically this is incidents, problems, changes, conversations, events, metrics, and so on. Helix Dashboards connects to your data sources to fetch data that can be presented in a meaningful way to enable you to make decisions. Now, these decisions could be strategic or tactical decisions. Helix Dashboards does this by allowing you to present data through a wide range of visualizations. You can use the visualizations that are apt to the specific needs of your businesses, your consumers of information. Although we use Grafana as the dashboarding engine, we have developed key IP that enables us to have greater control over delivering features that are important to you. Now, these are mainly in areas such as scheduling, exporting, and distribution. We have an extensive set of out-of-the-box dashboards that you will find useful. Helix Dashboards works with all key BMC Helix solutions so that once you develop skills on Helix Dashboards, you will benefit from those skills across all BMC Helix products. Next slide, please. Helix Dashboards is the perfect solution for all your reporting needs. As I said, once you develop skills on dashboards, on Helix Dashboards, it will help you across service management and operations management. It's one dashboarding solution that's delivered as part of the BMC Helix AD services. And this is where it comes back to BMC's service ops strategy. In service ops, you should be able to drive outcomes in one domain based on what happens in another domain. So incidents, CMDB on the service management side, you should be able to integrate these closely with events, metrics, etc., that go on in the operations management world. This is where BMC Helix Dashboards offers you something unique. This is something that smart reporting cannot do. Smart reporting is a point solution for reporting on ITSM and maybe business workflows, but it does not have the ability to report on the entire range of BMC Helix solution, which BMC Helix Dashboard does. That's why Helix Dashboards is the right solution for all your reporting needs. Next slide, please. So this is the entire range of BMC Helix solutions for which Helix Dashboards works. On the service management side, it's certainly ITSM, CMDB, business workflows, but also virtual agent, digital workplace, innovation suite. If you have designed any custom applications using innovation suite or what was formerly called the ARS system, you can build reports using Helix Dashboards. BMC Helix Portfolio Management, another recent product in our portfolio, you can build reports on this product too. On the operations management side, all our key solutions like Helix Operations Management, Discovery, Continuous Optimization, Cloud Security, Log Analytics, all of them, you can build dashboards on all of these solutions. So this is why dashboards is a single dashboarding solution for all service ops solutions. Next slide. This is a sample out of the box dashboard that we ship in the product. It's called the Digital Workplace Request Overview Dashboard. What does it show? So it shows a broad summary of your service catalog, how many service requests have been raised, how many of those are active, and so on. You'll see trends based on submissions, based on fulfillment. You'll get a distribution of service requests by status. So these are all questions that service desk managers have to respond to all the time. And then another responsibility for service desk managers is workforce planning. How do you make sure that your service desk is sufficiently staffed so that you can meet and exceed expectations of customers, expectations in terms of time to resolve, expectations in terms of how effectively you resolve incidents. It's also about meeting or exceeding service levels that you've agreed with your customers. So this is a good dashboard to give you an overview of your service catalog. Next slide, please. This is another dashboard that brings you data from service management and operations management. You can see a few statistics cards at the top. There's a health score, number of situations, scheduled availability, and so on. You also see at the bottom of a few more statistics around events, outages, and so on. And then there's a timeline at the center, which is a timeline that shows you health score, incidents, and events. And you'll see some of this comes from operations management, some from service management. So this is how you can correlate what's going on in incidents, which is in service management, with with events and metrics that come from operations management. Next slide, please. Dashboards is packed with features that will drive action. Consumers of information don't just run the reports because they want to. It's because they want to make decisions, strategic decisions or tactical decisions. And we need to present data to them in a meaningful way. How do we do it? We do it through a broad range of visualizations that you can use based on your dashboarding needs. You've got crosstab, we've got several visualizations that BMC has designed, and all of these are prefixed with BMC. And then there are several visualizations you will notice that we ship with the product, which are designed by Grafana. BMC visualizations. So this is where the control BMC has in terms of we aren't just dependent on Grafana for new capabilities. We can override what Grafana ships out of the box with newer capabilities that we add on top of what Grafana already provides. And that's how we have greater control over the feature functionality of dashboards compared to smart reporting, where we were dependent on a vendor entirely to provide all those capabilities. Scheduled reporting is an integral part of dashboards. You can schedule reports and make sure that anyone who needs those reports you can run those on a regular basis. Next slide, please. Now, let's come to Grafana. Grafana is a proven technology for the scale of data that we need to present in dashboards. Operations management, especially on the ITOM side, we're dealing with data of a large scale, and smart reporting is certainly not the tool that could have been used to provide those reporting needs. Grafana is the most appropriate solution for reporting across a large scale of data that you may want to generate insights from. Grafana skills are also widely available in the job market. So you will readily find skill resources in the job market for Grafana. Besides, your existing staff can also quickly get up to speed on Grafana. It's easy to learn, and BMC provides sufficient content in terms of training courses on BMC Helix dashboards. So you've already taken 2 courses, and those are sufficient for anyone to get started on on BMC Helix dashboards. Next slide. Let's look at a few dashboards that have been designed by BMC's IT function. BMC IT is BMC's IT function. They also use BMC Helix products for their needs. So for managing the service desk, as well as the entire IT infrastructure at BMC, all of that is managed using BMC Helix products. This one is a CIO dashboard, which gives a good overview for senior IT leaders. So you'll see there's at the top, there are a few statistics cards on that. These are open events by severity, there are resolved outages, open outages, business services, and so on. Then you'll see some bar charts that show you a distribution of outages by business services. You'll see a distribution by business applications. So a whole range of all those high level metrics that IT leaders care about are captured in this dashboard. Next slide, please. This is an SSL certificate expiration dashboard. From a security standpoint, your InfoSec team, in fact, all of IT, is responsible for ensuring the security of your business services and ensuring that you've got up-to-date SSL certificates for all your services, for all your devices is critical. This dashboard gives you a complete overview of the age of your SSL certificates. So any SSL certificates that are due to expire soon are shown right at the top. And based on conditional formatting, you'll see those services, those technical services that you'll need to take urgent action on. So this is something that this is a dashboard that we're going to ship out of the box soon. Next slide, please. If you use VMware vCenter, then this dashboard will help you get a good overview of your VMware estate. So it shows you communication status, vCenter availability, clusters. It shows you a distribution of the CPU utilization across different technical services, memory utilization, and so on. Next slide, please. This dashboard uses gauges. Gauges are a good visualization to use when you want to show a metric that has a 0 to 100 range. So typically anything of the nature of percentages, gauges can be a good way to show that visualization. So this is an availability dashboard. You would ideally expect availability to be 100% or almost 100% in most cases. You can use gauges to depict availability across your different applications or business services. Next slide, please. Now let's come to some core ITSM reports. Incident aging is a hot topic among most service desk teams. All service desk teams want to ensure that incidents are closed in time, because incidents that are open for long, they'll impact your mean time to resolve. They impact they negatively impact customer satisfaction. So this dashboard shows you your open incidents by in different time buckets. So 7 to 14 days, 14 to 30 days, older than 30 days. It also shows your distribution by the assigned group, the teams that to whom you've assigned incidents. You'll also see a distribution of incidents that are being tossed across different teams. So you'll see that average, that panel at the bottom that shows average reassignment of incidents. It shows you how many times incidents are being reassigned across teams, which indicates some potential trouble that there could be potential lack of ownership of certain incidents. Another panel in this dashboard shows a crosstab. It's a crosstab between priority and age, and this can be used to quickly draw your attention to incidents that need urgent attention. So sometimes the there may be critical incidents that are open for a long time. So anything that's critical or high and open for more than 40 days or 30 days should immediately attract your attention. Next slide, please. Problem managers, in most companies, problem managers struggle to keep a watch on all active problems. In fact, one of their problems, pun intentional, is that problem managers do not know which problems to focus on because there are so many incidents that are going on, and they often struggle to be on top of recurring incidents, which is where they need to identify potential problems. This dashboard can help them decide where they should focus their time and efforts on. So open problems or support groups that have the most open problems, distribution of investigation, status of problems. This is a good dashboard for problem managers to routinely have a look at. Next slide, please. Now let's go to our roadmap. And before we go to our roadmap for what's coming next, let's quickly review what was delivered in some of our recent releases. So Visual Query Builder is a graphical tool that you can use to quickly build reports using drag and drop. So we have done several improvements in Visual Query Builder. Certain operators like not in has been introduced. There's a new operator called between that you will find useful for date filters, but it's typically you will want to filter on dates between or dates within a certain range. You'll also find several date string functions. So typically what you would do with manipulating string functions, convert to uppercase, convert to lowercase, remove trailing spaces, leading spaces, several date functions, so weekday, day, month, and so on, several time functions. All of these have been introduced in Visual Query Builder. Next slide, please. Some more filter operators for string functions, number, date, and I don't need to explain all of these. Anyone who's in the business of developing reports will easily understand what these functions are for. Next slide, please. Role-based access control is another recent feature that gives your admins more granular control over how you should administer roles in dashboards. So starting with dashboard 24.2, roles have been decoupled from BMC Helix portal. So as you know, BMC Helix portal is the central administrative area where you administer permissions, roles and permissions for all AD services, including dashboards. We have now decoupled permissions from portal because we realize that dashboard admins need much greater control over roles. So with Dashboards 24.2, you'll be able to create custom roles. You'll also be able to manage permissions for each role. So you have granular control over what operations each custom role can perform. Can they create reports? Can they download reports? Can they set up data sources? Can they schedule reports and so on? Okay, so I've given a few examples at the bottom. So for example, you may want that only specific roles should be able to download reports, or only specific roles should be able to manage data sources. All of this is now possible with role-based access control. You'll not be able to modify permissions of the out-of-the-box roles that we ship with the product. But once you create your custom roles, all you need to do is remove your users from the out-of-the-box roles and assign your custom roles to your users. Next slide, please. So with this release, we are also enabling managed service providers to use Helix dashboards. This was something that was not possible in previous releases, but now MSPs for service management can use Helix dashboards with authentication for each subtenant. So you may have different authentication mechanisms for different tenants. You'll not now be able to, we now support MSPs in service management. Next slide. PDF enhancements, there are several export improvements, especially in PDF enhancements. So all the rows that you see, all the data that you see in the dashboard when you run a dashboard on a browser, all those rows are exported. So even if on the screen you're required to scroll, when the report is exported, you will see that entire data exported without losing any of that data. There are several major and minor formatting improvements. There's support for branding. You also can repeat headers across multiple pages when your report spans multiple pages. There's also support for crosstab. You can now export crosstab reports to PDF. And all these improvements apply not just to a dashboard, but also to exporting specific panels. Next slide, please. We are shipping a few out-of-the-box dashboards related to AI ops. So there's an anomalies overview, there's an anomalies by service dashboard, and a univariate anomalies by device. There's detailed documentation on our docs portal, docs.bmc.com, that will give you sufficient information about these dashboards. Next slide, please. Visual Query Builder was generally available in 24.1 and will continue to enhance VQB in upcoming releases. Next slide, please. Visual Query Builder is not just for your out-of-the-box forms and fields. You can now extend Visual Query Builder to your custom fields, custom forms, and custom apps. Typically, most customers create custom fields on their incident form, incident, change, problem, knowledge, whatever. You may have custom applications using Innovation Suite. You can now use a tool called Reporting Metadata Studio. You can download Reporting Metadata Studio from within Helix Dashboards, and you can use this tool to extend our out-of-the-box views to include your custom field, so that you don't need to, once you do this, you don't need to use SQL or form for creating your reports. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Sorry, it just got stuck. Is it moved? Yeah.
Yeah. Another upcoming feature is the ability to apply filters on the metadata layer. So, for example, you may want that all reports that are generated on incidents, for example, using Visual Query Builder, they should always apply a condition for a specific company. You may have legal restrictions. You may want to comply with the law of the land in your region, or you may have other reasons to apply such conditions. But when you do that, any report that's created on that metadata view using Visual Query Builder will have that condition applied automatically without expecting the report editor to apply those conditions. So uh, we've typically seen these in some countries where there are laws that require you to limit access to data only to users within the user's country. So even if now with this, you don't have to rely on the report editor or the report developer to build to add those conditions on company or whatever. This gets applied automatically at the metadata layer. So this is something that's coming up. That's why it's highlighted with a border. This is something that's coming up in our next release. Next slide, please. Custom roles and granular access. I covered this previously, so we can skip this slide. But just one thing, we are extending a few more permissions in rule-based access control. Once you start using Visual Query Builder, using role-based access control, you can remove the ability to build reports using sequeler forms. And that's a use case we have seen across several customers where they want to force their report editors to build reports only using Visual Query Builder. That's what's possible with uh, with uh, role-based access control. We've covered managed service providers. We can skip this slide. Another thing coming up for managed service providers, especially on the operations management side, is the ability to roll up MSP access. So if you are an MSP on the IT operations management side, you will be able to build a dashboard where you can have multiple panels, one panel for each tenant, for each MSP tenant. So all of this, so just as we have done it in service management, the same capabilities we have started extending on the IT operations management side as well. So this is a roadmap feature. Next slide, please. Out of the box dashboard content, we continually build new dashboard based on what we hear from customers. The longest list of our innovations is in ITSM or service management in general, but occasionally we also build reports in discovery or other operations management products. So these are some of the reports that are coming up in our next few releases. Next slide, please. Usage statistics. This is another feature that several customers have asked for, the ability to understand how how your users are using dashboards. What are the most used dashboards? What are the least used dashboards? Which dashboards were used in the past week? Who are your top users? All that metadata around usage of dashboards, that's something we are working on. Next slide, please. GeoMap visualization is another plugin that you can use, especially for one use case that I can think of is assets or your IoT devices. If your IoT devices are tagged with geolocation, you can use the GeoMap plugin to show a map of your devices. So it could be a device for a region or a country or a site. You can show a graphical representation of your assets or devices, and you can have metadata or attributes of each device displayed whenever you hover over any device. Next slide. Another extension of dashboards is the ability to embed dashboard widgets in application consoles, whether you're using ITSM or any custom app design in Innovation Studio. You'll be able to embed dashboard widgets within these applications so that this will help you grow the adoption of dashboards among your application users. Next slide, please. A slightly longer term roadmap item is the ability to import content or dashboard definitions from BMC Marketplace will allow customers and partners to develop dashboards and upload them to the BMC Marketplace. This will especially help our partners market their services. So once you have developed skills on dashboards, you can you can provide a few dashboards that you can upload to Marketplace that will let customers become familiar with your capabilities in building dashboards, and you can that can get you some recognition and increase the awareness of your brand among our install base. Next slide, please. Yet another long-term roadmap is a guided flow to help novice users, new users get up to speed with building dashboards. Oftentimes, we see that some new users are overwhelmed with what they see in dashboards when they log in. So they need to create a query, they need to build a visualization. With a new guided workflow, we this will be a wizard-based approach where we guide the user through a step-by-step wizard through the entire process of creating a dashboard. Next slide, please. With that, I'm now going to hand off to my next presenter. And who's that, Samantha?
So we're now going to pass over to Abhinay to go through the next slides. I just want to just quickly talk on this slide. We haven't unfortunately got our UX team able to join today, but if any customers on here are interested in signing up to be a design partner, again, there's another QR code. I will be sending these slides out today or tomorrow at the latest, so you can take the code either now or we can do that at another point. And I think we are now moving on to Abhinay's part of the presentation.
Thank you, Sam, and thanks, Nikhil, for that great presentation. So hello, everyone. I'm Abhinay. I'm a senior practice manager with consulting services. We're part of professional services global service delivery team. And I also drive a center of excellence for Helix Dashboard within PES. And as part of that, we establish best practices around all the features, new features that are coming up for Helix Dashboard, and pass on the feedback from the field, from the customers back to the product team, Nikhil and his team, for improving the dashboard. So we have heard Nikhil speak about what great things come with Helix Dashboard and why it's a much better solution than the previous platform, Smart Reporting, and why you should migrate to it. Now let's talk about how we can do this. So we'll cover a migration framework that talks about dividing this entire journey into different phases. And then we'll talk about some of the key phases, like doing assessment of smart reporting usage. We'll then take a look at example migration strategy, which which is based on this framework that we go through. Finally, we'll talk about learnings from the field, what we have learned from other customers' experience, from professional services when we work with other customers. And then we'll briefly touch upon some of the new features which have an impact on this migration strategy. Right. So the migration journey from smart reporting to Helix dashboard can be divided in this 5-phase framework. So it starts with prepare, which is something where we are right now. We all are. So you are attending these awareness sessions like this one. You have attended some of the prerequisite trainings before attending this session. So all of that gives you an overview of how similar or different the two platforms are, what the strengths of the new platform are, the vocabulary, the terminology, they might be slightly different. So getting an awareness of all of that will help you go to the next phase, which is planning. Now, within planning, we get deeper. So we want to understand how smart reporting is being used, what all features you are using, what's the quantity, how frequently you are using, and all of those parameters. And that will help you in planning this migration better. So you will know what are your top reports. You'll know what those reports use, what kind of reports these are, and how they map to the new platform. And once we have all this background information, once we have done this analysis, we can then have a clear migration plan for all the top priority reports that we want to migrate. That will lead us to migrate and validate phase. The two go hand in hand iteratively. So you migrate some, see whether those migrated reports are in line with the expectations of the consumers of those reports. And based on the feedback, again, improve and so on until the end users, the consumers of the reports are happy with what they have. And with that, we transition onto the new platform. We go live. And if you have external team supporting you, like BMC Professional Services or a partner, BMC partner, then you would have a knowledge transfer where the team helps you understand how the migration was done. And if you need to do later phases yourself, then how you can do that. Let's go to the next slide, Sam. All right, next slide, please. So let's talk about assessment now. So this is the most important aspect once you have covered some of the general overview of the platform, the awareness sessions. So once you're done with that prepare phase, you move on to plan. And biggest, most important piece in that planning phase would be this assessment. So before we can understand what we are looking at, let's look at some of the important features which will have the biggest impact on this migration in terms of time and effort. So I've listed only 4 object types here: reports, dashboards, broadcasts, and linked reports. There are many other differences between the two platforms, but right now we are only talking about the ones which have the biggest impact. So number one, we need to understand the fundamental difference in the two platforms is you have all these different object types on smart reporting world. You have different type of reports. You have core display reports, single visualization, multiple visualization reports. You have dashboards. But if you look at Helix dashboard, everything is a dashboard. It can have one or more panels in it. So your core display report will also map to a multi-panel dashboard, and so will a dashboard, which essentially has different reports linked within it. So all of them translate into something exactly same. Now, you would also notice some of them some of these object types are supported by the migration tool, and some of them are not. And if you look at visualizations, um, it's a conditional support. So some visualizations are supported, some are not. And the main reason there is that two platforms are very different. They have their own different way of visualizations. And so some of them may not be present in the Helix dashboard. And we'll talk about that later in the session, how we handle these kind of visualizations. Next slide, please. All right. So speaking of visualizations, you can see for most of the commonly used visualizations, there is something very similar on the Helix dashboard side. It may be called a little differently, but essentially it represents the data in a very similar fashion as what you had on smart reporting. And like I said, there would be few which may not have anything similar on Helix dashboard side, like you have tree map and thermometer. But again, the list keeps changing because as you saw Nikhil talk about different visualization that PMC is continuously building. So we some of the new visualizations might serve the same purpose. So always go and look at the latest documentation to find out what's there in the latest version, what you can leverage. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so now that we understand the important features that we need to understand in terms of usage and how they relate to in the two platforms, let's talk about the assessment report, assessment queries. So again, just to quickly recap, the important aspects that we want to understand are: number one, the total volume of reports, number of reports, what type of reports we are talking about, what kind of visualizations they have, because like you have seen, if different visualizations have different mapping, and then co-display report versus standalone report, which will map differently. So we need to understand the type of reports, visualization they are using, the complexity of report, which will come from different factors depending on the report type. So for instance, if you have a co-display report, as you can imagine, the complexity goes up as the number of child reports increase. So we'll talk about a few more factors later when we see a sample assessment in the next slide. Next we have is the frequency of report execution, report being run. And that gives a fair idea about how important that report is to the consumers, to the organization. So there are reports which are needed day in, day out. So these are our top priority reports. And then again, there would be reports which have not been used in a fairly significant period. So and we can then draw a cutoff to identify the ones which are not really in use, which are inactive. Finally, we also need to understand dashboards, what all reports are part of which dashboard, broadcasts, and the report linking, so whether it's drill down or drill through. The way we do this assessment is using these SQL queries that you can see on the screenshot in the right hand of the slide. And now these queries are all available on PMC docs. And each of the query will give you a insight into one specific feature or feature usage. And it's very granular. You get details around users, roles, and all the features that we talked about, the aspects we talked about, and many, many more. With that, let's go to the next one. And here is a sample assessment report. So this is this is a report that PS creates when we work with our customers, and the queries are essentially same as what you saw on the previous slide, what are available freely on BMC docs, but they have been customized, tweaked a little bit to make it easier for PS to do the estimation. But as you can see, it talks about all of those factors that we had listed out in the previous slide. So we have hit count. So it talks about how many times a report was run in X number of days. Now, this X number of days might be different for every organization. Some organizations only want to look at last 90 days, and anything that's not been accessed before 90 days may not be important report, if at all it's being rarely used. So hit count and like I said, the number of days might differ. You may want to go with 120 days, 180 days, 90 days. It depends on the organization. The next one, public or private, we'll come back to this factor, but it basically means whether the report was visible to entire organization or was it private to the owner. Next, type of visualization. Sam, can you please go back?
Apologies.
No worries. So next four columns where you have different counts listed. So these give some indication on the complexity of report depending on the context. So like I mentioned, co-display report, the complexity comes in with the number of child reports. As they go up, the complexity go up. But you also have calculated field, number of calculated fields in a report, advanced database functions, ARDB functions, report linking, so drill down, drill through report relationship. And towards the end, you can also see if this particular report was part of a specific dashboard, the broadcast count. So overall, putting this all together will give a fair idea about what is the complexity that we are dealing with and how much time and effort it might take. Sam, next slide, please. All right, so now let's put it all together. And here is a sample migration strategy, and it may be a little bit different for every organization, but it essentially follows the same 5-phased framework that we talked about at the beginning of the session. So we talked about the awareness sessions, we talked about the assessment. Next in planning phase is filter and prioritize. Now what that means. So I talked about finding out the hit count, giving an indication about what are your top priority reports. So this is the right moment in the planning phase where we can do away with all the junk, so to speak, all the volume of report that has accumulated over a period of time. So, and we'll talk about a little bit more when we talk about lessons learned from other customers. But this is one of the most important aspects after we have done the assessment. So now we know what reports we want to migrate. We know their priority. And this leads us to defining a tight scope for our pilot phase. Now, you can do all reports in a time, but again, it's recommended that we do in smaller phases, smaller chunks, waves, iterations, however you may want to call it, but essentially dividing it into a smaller volume, because that will enable you to get deeper into the planning. So you can then get into what reports need to be migrated using what approach. And that is basically, do we want to convert that report? Do we want to recreate that report? Or we want to reuse something out of box? Nikhil talked about the power of service ops, which we can tap using Helix Dashboard. So you have access to more information in Helix Dashboard as compared to smart reporting. Now, you may want to use that and reimagine some of the reports. You can reimagine from scratch, and that may bring you more value than simply lift and shift what you already have. And again, this will depend on the report that you are talking about, the specific report. Some reports you may want to migrate as is. Others you may want to recreate, whether it's because of the new features available or uh, for some other reason that the report as it existed didn't make was not the most useful one, so you want to reimagine, and there can be other reasons, limitation in the migration. So we may want to recreate some of the reports, and finally reusing out-of-box content. So Nikhil spoke about all these out-of-box dashboards, and there's a lot of content available from BMC communities and the upcoming content in Helix Marketplace. So from all of these uh, places, platforms, you can get a lot of uh, dashboards, pre-built dashboards, which may work very well for you. So instead of migrating, you may want to take a look at those. Now, once we have done this analysis, a deep dive analysis for all the reports in that pilot phase, then we can get into the actual conversion. And the first step would be the tool assisted conversion. We see what the tool can convert for us in an automated fashion. And where the tool has limitation, the report will anyway have to be recreated manually. Now, like I mentioned earlier, so the conversion, the migration goes hand in hand with validate phase. And that essentially means user acceptance test. So does it make sense for the consumer of that report? If they agree with that report, then we go to the next phase. Else, the feedback goes back and until everything works fine for the end user. Next, we have go live. Once we are done go live, knowledge transfer, we talked about all of this earlier. Sam, next slide, please. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the learnings from other customers. So when we work with other some of our other customers during their migrations, so we have seen some of these common factors across the board. Some of them work really well for the customer. Some of the problems that we have seen. So let's talk about some of those. Number one situation that we have seen all across is report sprawl. And I touched upon this earlier when I talked about prioritizing and filtering of reports. What we have seen is 50% or more in most of the cases, reports are not really in use and they were not needed. And so the migration volume that we needed to take to Helix Dashboard came down significantly. So the original count might have been in big thousands, but then when we take a closer look, much of it is not really needed. And there are multiple reasons for this. One common reason is the report was done as a one-time use report, and it was not really used ever after. The other commonly used common cause is owner changing. So either getting transferred to a different part of the organization or leaving the organization. And especially if they have a bunch of reports which are marked private, they are just lying there, nobody's using them. And in many cases, when owner moves, even if the report was public, maybe they were just using it for their reference, and that's not needed by anyone else. So again, a good candidate, good category candidate for eliminating from the migration list. Second point is redundancy in the in uh, reports as compared to some of the out of box content. And we talked about out of box reports and community content. You can go and take a look at what's available, and if that makes uh, better sense than what you had in smart reporting. So rather than migrating it, why not reuse something that's already available? It may work better for you. The next important one is the new ticket consoles, the new consoles, ticket console and asset console that are available with the product now. So very commonly there are a lot of people have reports which are essentially listing out tickets or asset data in a simple tabular format. Uh, few columns just listed data, and that's being referred to for different planning reasons. Now, the same objective can be done through these new consoles. They allow you to create presets. They allow you to export the report. So again, if you have some of these type of reports, I would recommend go and take a look at these consoles. They might work just as well for you. So rather than creating something in the reporting world, you can simply use these consoles. The last one, but again, very important, is when we are doing that uh, planning, we divide, like I mentioned, into different phases, and these phases should be as focused as possible, especially the pilot phase. So you want to handle your top priority reports much more closely. And when you do this small bite-sized phase planning, it allows you to um, plan better, do a quality control better, and do an alignment with the end users much better, rather than it's very tempting that you do a big bang approach, you run the conversion utility against thousands of reports, but again the bottleneck would be the validation of those reports. So end users having to go through all those thousands of reports again just doesn't work. All right. So let's go to the next slide, Sam. Few more customer case studies. So I'll talk about three customers. Now, every customer is different. I have just picked these three, but there are many more similar examples where we have uh, done a successful transition. I wanted to talk about these three because they are all unique in their own ways, and that will give you an idea how some of them might be similar to how you are placed, and how that would work out. So the number one customer listed here is a large government department, and they had a lot of complex reports, a lot of core display reports, large core display reports. So we decided that they needed much closer analysis and planning before we do any kind of migration. So this was done in multiple phases with multiple workshops, working with the customer to understand what the report is all about, how best that can be converted into the new platform. They started with close to 5,200 reports, but then finally came down to 95 priority reports. Now that alone will again highlight the point that I made earlier. So not all reports are important, and we need to understand what really are important. Now, these priority reports were again converted in a agile way. So there were the conversion cycle were 10-day sprints, and every sprint, few reports were picked up based on the complexities, and that the average number would be somewhere around 7 to 8 reports. But like I said, varies depending on the complexity. And in an agile uh, approach, you can imagine the UAT was going in parallel for the batch created in the previous sprint. Now, the PS was involved in the pilot phase. Now, partner is doing the rest of the reports. The next one we have is a classic example of report sprawl. So they are a big retail giant. They had some 11,000 reports, and anybody can panic when they look at such a big number. But again, after doing the assessment, after going through some of the reports with their own teams, they uh, they filtered it down to 6,000 reports. Again, 6,000 reports are the reports which uh, were in use, the others were inactive. And then out of those 6,000 reports, the priority reports were only 381. So the validation and more focus was uh, given to these 381 reports, and others were migrated, but they were low priority to be taken up in the next phases. And the customer themselves are doing rest of the conversion. The last one we have is a good example of looking at things differently. So instead of looking at report first, they wanted to do dashboard first. So it's just a different way of planning. It achieves similar results. You are again converting the reports, but which reports they used the dashboard as the criteria. So they had some 2,500 reports, but uh, they started with two priority dashboards, which had 57 reports in all. And again, this was done much like in an agile way. So weekly conversion iterations were done every week. Few reports were picked for conversion, and every week there would be a UAT and a go live. So few different examples. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right. So Nikhil briefly touched upon Visual Query Builder, and can you please go to the next slide also, Sam? The Metadata Studio. So I won't spend a lot of time here, but I do want to mention that when we are recreating a report, like I mentioned, the three approaches: recreate, convert, or reuse. So when we are recreating a report, we should consider what we want to do. In most cases, the recommendation is to go with Visual Query Builder because it allows you simple drag and drop approach to build the report, and rather than migrating the SQL query, and later on you won't have that option to switch to Visual Query Builder for that specific report. Now I'll hand it over to Ajinkya, who will take us through a demo of these two features. Over to you, Ajinkya.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Abhinay, for a wonderful session. Hello, everyone. My name is Ajinkya. I am a senior product developer in Helix Dashboard. Let me share my screen so that I can show you all the Visual Query Builder and also the reporting metadata studio. Okay. Abhinay, can you please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yeah, we can see.
It is.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll talk about the Visual Query Builder first. Okay, so VQB, that is the short term that we are using. So what I have done, I have just logged into one of the tenant or one of the demo environment where I have just logged into this portal, which is the first landing page for all the ADE application. From here, I'm just going to the Helix dashboard. Okay, Helix dashboard, you all know, right? It has all the options like to fetch the data from BHOM as well as from the ITSM or the service management. So to fetch the data from service management, earlier we had two options, either form, using form, or a SQL. Now in this particular option, we have one more option called as Visual Query Builder. So as soon as you click on the Visual Query Builder, you will see this entire screen, new model gets opened. And here you have option to select any view. Okay, so there are 10 to 15 views which are developed by BMC and which are available as out-of-box views. So these views are developed depending on the categories, like one is for change management, one is for incident management, problem management, work order management, and so on. So I'll just go ahead with the sample one with the incident management. And as soon as you select a view, you see all these folders or fields, we call it as field, uh, on the left-hand side. So once you expand it, you'll see all the fields. So these are all the fields which was there earlier in the smart reporting. We have almost similar fields here in the VQB, so that user will have the same experience of creating a dashboard, a panel in the Helix dashboard. Okay, so again, if I want to have just want to create a incident information, I'll say I want incident number, its priority, and its assignee, and I click on preview. This particular panel will show first 100 rows just for preview. I can see the SQL if I want to. What is the SQL getting generated using this panel? If it is okay, I can simply click on use query, and that query will be placed here so that next time when we want to see, we can see that query here as well. And if I just simply click on the switch to table view, my panel is ready with the whatever the query that or what are the fields that I have selected. So this is just one sample query that I have created. Okay, so likewise, we can create a filters as well. Like for if we want to have some where condition, so I can have let's say priority equal to I can select high as well. So it will show only priority equal to high. So for all the enums, we actually pre-populate the values. So user can directly select from the drop down. If you just click there, you can select. If you want, you can type as well. So let's say I want high 1, then high 1 will be selected. I clicked enter there. So high 1. There is no such value. That's why it will not show any data. But I can modify. I can either use existing values or I can type the values here as well. So this is for filter. We can have, okay, one more thing. You see there are some different symbols here. So these are actually the string field. This is also an enum. So if you see, these are numbers. Like in smart reporting also, we have this categorization. Some are string field or the varchar type string. Some of them are numbers. For date, we have some different icons. So these are actually the date field. And there are some which are calculated fields. So these are predefined calculated field already available in the view. So that way, this has some different icon. So let's say if I want to have a report for, I'll just remove this and I'll add this. Let's say priority wise count of incident. So this will show me priority wise count of incident in the system. So that way I can use these calculated fields as well, which are predefined in the view. Plus, if I want to have some functions, let's say I want to use some string function. Okay, for this string is not available. The aggregation function, if I want to have some count or distinct count, I can use that. If I want to order, then I can use this order by clause as well. If I want to remove, then I can remove that. from this selection. So these aggregation and also the functions which are different for different type of category. Let's say on the number, we can add these many aggregation function, right? So that way it is verified and uh, already checked depending on the data type of the field. So this way we can create a panel in the VQB. So I'll again go and create same panel, let's say number of incident, but here I'm getting data for all. So what I will do, I'll just create a filter again on priority and I'll say hi. Okay. So this way it will show only one value. I'm clicking on OK. Then again panel will get refreshed and my panel is ready. This way we can we can use a VQB to quickly generate a query for a panel without knowing any dashboard or any schema or any form and any field in the form. So similarly, we can create a variable as well. So let's say if I use priority, again, I want to have this priority as a filter. So I'll say priority and here also I can use the VQB. So I'll select enable query editor. Again, this query, I can use this as a, again, same view, then priority in the field. So this particular, in this particular selection where we are creating variable, it is allowed to add only one field because the variable is for only for one field. We can add a filter here as well, but as of now, I'll just go ahead with the simple priority filter. So with this, I have all these priority, critical, high, low, and medium. I can click on apply and my variable is created. Now, I want to link this variable to my panel. So I can again edit this. I can open this particular visual query builder again. Now, instead of constant, I will use variable. So that is the priority variable. Can click on preview. So first value selected is critical. That's why it is picking critical. I can see, I can just click on apply and apply. Okay. If I now change this particular to high, then it will get reflected in the panel as well. So likewise, we can use VQB to create a filter as well. Okay. So as of now, I'll just go back and remove this filter. Sorry. Remove. Click on preview. Gain all the value. So VQB is not just for creating a tabular data. VQB is for creating a query for a panel. REST all functionality, like if I want to have a bar chart for this, I can create a bar chart as well. So I can later use any visualization which are available and which was there earlier as well. So VQB is not just for table, it can be used for creating panel using any other visualization. So this is all about VQB, and VQB we can use in the variable as well. Okay. So I'll go on the next. So next thing is, now the question is, there are some out of box views, but what about the custom views or the customization which mostly user has done on top of these forms? So in the help desk, or if they have any new forms introduced on the ITSM side. So for that, what is the option, or where we can modify the views which are coming as out of box? Okay, so solution to that is already Nikhil and Abhinay talked about. So we need to use reporting metadata studio. Okay, so from this administration and default, sorry, not default preferences. In the administration, we have this tab, which is reporting metadata studio. Here we have some introductory video. Also, we have given some configuration which is required to configure reporting metadata studio, but we'll discuss on that later. So here we have a download option. Anyone can download reporting metadata studio from the Helix dashboard UI. As soon as you click on the download will get started and you'll get one zip file. Okay. I already have that zip file, so I'll just cancel this. Okay. Now I have this zip downloaded from Helix dashboard. I'll just extract it and I'll get this folder, reporting metadata editor. And here I have all the files which are required for reporting metadata studio. Again, if I talk a little bit about reporting metadata studio. So reporting metadata studio is a Windows-based application which you can download and configure on your Windows server. For the configuration, you will require a caching gateway, same as Dev Studio, to connect to the AR database, and also the tenant details, like for which tenant or for which ADE Helix dashboard instance you are creating this view. Normally, for every customer, they have dev environment, QA environment, and prod environment. And for all these three, there are three different URLs. So if I just show you here, so this is one tenant, the one URL that we have on for the Helix dashboard. Okay. So as soon as you download this, next question is to configure this particular application. So for configuring, we have this BMC auth configuration folder where we have two files. One is environment details, another one is profile.properties. Okay. In the environment.property file, we need to specify this tenant URL, sorry, tenant ID, tenant URL, AR host, AR port, and REST endpoint, and some alias. I'm just giving alias as a demo for now. And these values you will get from here. So tenant ID, you can see here, then URL, AR host, port, environment. You can simply click on copy to clipboard and you can edit this file and paste it here. Okay, that way your environment.property will be ready. So I'll not use this because I have already this configured. Second file is profile.property, where we need to specify the key and secret for the user. So how to get these key and secret? With the same user login. So my name, currently I'm using this user, IUR user 1. For the same user, I can go to my profile and I can create my access key here. Any user can create 2 access keys at a time, and they can use it. So this is just a add access key. I already have 2, so it is not allowing. But once you click on this add and configure 1 key, you will get this key and secret that we need to specify here. Okay. So as soon as these 2 files are ready, we are good to start reporting metadata studio. So for that, we just need to open this particular folder into the command prompt and open this and run this reporting metadata studio.bat file. Okay. This will require a Java 17.x. Okay, so that I've already configured. So it has picked that, and also the user credential from the profile.properties. If you don't want to set those values in the profile.properties, you can enter while opening this particular application on this command prompt as well. Okay, so now my reporting metadata studio is ready. I have configured it and opened it. Now I want to do some modification in the existing out-of-box views. Okay. So for that, what I have three options. Either I can import these out-of-box dashboard, which are already available, and do the modification in it. Or I can create a fresh new, just clicking on this plus new icon, and I can create new. Or I can use a sample view. So what we have given one sample metadata view as well, where we have only two forms, one simple join, and that anyone can take it as a reference, and they can add multiple column, multiple forms, add multiple multiple relationship, multiple fields in it, and they can extend this particular sample metadata. So I'll go with the first option. I'll just take the incident management view from out of box. I'll give INC1 just a sample name, which is local for this particular environment. It will download the JSON file, the XML file from ADE tenant, which is there on the SaaS. So all these XMIs are already stored onto the S3, the storage that ADE is using. So now that file is downloaded and also loaded into this particular reporting metadata studio. So this is our out-of-box incident management view, which consists of help desk, association, base element, task, assignment log, impacted areas, and work log. And if you see or mouse over on these lines, this shows the joins or relationship between these two table or these two forms. Before making any changes, what I need to do, I need to do a connection to my AR database. So what I'll do, I'll just edit it. This connection is already created because we have all this information in the environment.property file. So only thing is not there, which is username and password. So right now I am logged in with this user one. Okay, so I'll use the same user to connect to the database as well. And if I just click on test, connection failed. What happened? Just a minute. Should be the same. Okay, just a minute. Something went wrong. 2 minutes. I have not changed. Let me quickly relaunch it. Okay, it is getting open. Again, I'm doing import, then INC. And let me just confirm my file. This is correct. Okay. Okay, it's getting loaded. Okay, edit. Oh, not sure. happened? It was working before this, but okay. So I'll explain how we can do. So these are all the forms which we have used, and we can add any other table. So if I use this import table option, then once you click on this, you will get a list of all the tables which are available in the AR database. Okay, so all the tables means all the forms. So what are the customization which you have done? All those tables will be listed. Also, the customization in in these forms, those will be also listed. Okay. So first we need to add a particular table in the connection as a physical table. So if you see, these are actually the physical table. So we can add using this import table option. Once added, we need to add a relationship. So right now, because that connection is not there, I'm not able to show you, but we can add a relationship. So whatever the tables that we have, with that table, we can do a connection like this. So I'll just open this one. So here, the connection between help desk and association is based on the incident number. So help desk incident number is equivalent to association's request ID 2. And we have added a left outer join. Here we can use inner join, right outer join, or full outer join. And also we have just given a order. So if there are like multi-level joins, then we can give the order as well, so that it will create a right query. Then as soon as our relationship is ready and our ER diagram is ready in this section, what we need to do, we need to add that table as a business table. So all these are PT. So PT stands for physical table and BT stands for business table. So let's say we have one new table added here, and we will add it as a business table. So let's say I don't have anything yet right now, but I'll consider this as a new table. Okay. And now my table is added. So let's say this is my table and this has all the columns from the AR. Okay. Now, next step is to create a business view. So if you notice, this business view is same as what we have on the VQB. So okay, I'll open again quickly. Then Visual Query Builder, Incident Management. So these are all the folders that you see here. Those are similar to this field. So incident details. So what we can do, we can add either a new category. Let's say if you want to add a new folder, we can add new folder. Or if I want to add, let's say, any other column which is not there in this particular view, I can simply expand these business table and simply drag and drop. Let's say a submitter, I want to have it in the calculated field. I can use these buttons and that particular field is added here, okay, as a new column, and I can click on OK. So that way my new field is added in the view. Then next step is save this particular view. So once you save this, it will create an XML file, and that XML file we can publish to Helix Dashboard. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, now my changes, whatever I wanted to do, that is done. Now the next step is I want to make this particular view available for the VQB so that report designer can use this view to create multiple reports. So for that, I have this option, publish to Helix Dashboard. Here I have this demo, which I configured, right? The alias that we have given. So either I can publish this particular view to the same tenant which I'm using, or I can use this option to configure another tenant as well. So this we have added for a scenario where we will create a views on the dev environment. We'll create a reports on the dev environment. Once everything is ready, we will publish the view on the prod environment, and we'll migrate all the reports from dev to prod. Okay. So for that, this option is added. So right now, I'll use the same thing. Okay. And once we publish from here, that view will get published and it will get listed, or it will get added in this particular list. So if you see here, there are many custom dashboard which already I have created. Let's say INC 22 Feb. Okay. So this is again another view which has some different work order, or calculated field is not there, so work order is there. So likewise, we can use any custom views, again, use in the VQB for report creation or dashboard creation. So yeah, that's all I wanted to cover on the VQB as well as on the reporting metadata studio. I will hand it over to the Samantha for the next.
I think before we go into some slides, if it's okay, I think it'd be quite a good time to go and have a look at a few questions. I'm quite conscious, obviously, we've had everyone very quiet for a long while. So if that's okay, if we can move to the questions for a little bit and then we'll come back to the slides, would that be okay? So we'll see which ones we can get answered. Some of the ones we may not be able to have the answers today. So Jean-Henry had a question in the chat. I don't know if you can take a look at it, Abhinay and Nikhil and Ajinkya. This was around creating the SQL to create a panel. If you want to just take a look at that, and maybe we could answer that one live.
Yeah. So the functions, right? The list aggregation and ascending and descending. So there are many options in the Helix dashboard to do the aggregation. Either we can do in the query or on the visualization as well. So let's say if we are using table as a plugin, we can use sorting in the table. We have sorting in the transform option as well. So there are many places. Either we can do the sorting on the server side, or we can do the sorting on the client side. I hope this answers your question.
Let me just see if I can unmute. I'll just try and see if he's still here, and we'll get him to just confirm. Jean-Henry, I've just managed to unmute you. I don't know if you want to just confirm that's answered your question. If you can hear us, or if you want to type back into the answer, that would be absolutely fine. I will just, Ajinkya, just put a question mark in there and just say, please confirm, because sometimes not everyone can get off of mute.
Okay.
We then had a generic question, or when I say generic, from anonymous attendee. What will happen with web reporting reports? Will there be anything like this in HDB? Don't know who wants to answer that.
Abhinay or Nikhil?
Ask the question again.
So the question was, what will happen with web reporting reports? Will there be anything like this in Helix Dashboard?
Need some details. I'm not familiar with this functionality in smart reporting. We'll get back.
Yeah,
Okay,
same
so
here.
whoever did ask that question, if you can just provide us a bit more information, or feel free to raise your hand and then I can unmute you, just because we've got quite a big audience today and we will open up for live Q&A towards the end. So if you can give us some more information on that one. And then there's another one, is there a roadmap to be able to access H-table status historical table? That was our next question.
It's not, we haven't heard of this use case yet. Please send me an email. My email address is nikhil_deshpande@bmc.com and we'll consider.
Okay, and there's also the option of raising an idea in the ideas process.
Yes.
If you didn't
Yes,
catch
certainly.
Nikhil's
Absolutely.
email address, please reach out to me as well, and I can also help you with that. Okay, and then we've got Adil's asked a question. In the newest ticket asset consoles, can I share a preset filter I have created, i.e. I want all my team members to see the same tickets using a uniform set of criteria? And Adil, if you do want to come off mute, I've just given you access to talk to us directly if you want to say something further. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, hello.
Hi, yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, we've had this question from our user base about like a team lead wanting their team members to see the exact same filter criteria. And of course, they can all create it individually, but is there a way to share that?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check. Nikhil, not sure if you know the answer.
I think what's being asked is there's a roadmap item for global variables, having a set of global variables that you can use across reports. Is that what this is?
This is for the new consoles, ticket console and asset console.
Yeah.
Can
well,
the preset filters be shared across team?
Oh, yes, of course. On the consoles, yes. You can share presets with others. Okay, so this is not about dashboards. This is about the consoles.
Yeah, so it was a more general question. Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Yes. Yes, they can be shared with individuals.
thanks.
Thanks, Adil. Do you have any other questions while you're off mute for the team?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next question was from Bruce. Bruce was asking on the links, I mean, if the presenter talks about how to do something, where would I find the topics on BMC Docs? So I'm guessing based on these type of questions and documentation, we do have quite a lot of links, Bruce, that we're sharing in the slides. The slides will be shared with you. And I think, Nikhil, if there is anything else specifically that you think would be useful for customers today, we'll collate those together. I don't know if you want to add anything to Bruce's request, and Bruce, feel free to come off mute also. You were just asking about some of the topics on BMC Docs. Can you hear us, Bruce? I can see you've come off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello.
Awesome. Hi. I'm just asking, sometimes when trying to find some of the things that you're discussing, you know, I often cannot find it. And I don't know if I'm just naturally slow or what the reasoning is. But if I don't use the right language, I can't find anything. And so some of the things that you're pointing out, you keep talking about, oh, it's in the documentation, or, you know, we can find it there. But either the developer needs to use more keywords, or what I was thinking is like in some of these slides, you know, if the link to where that type of information, obviously we need to explore and find other things and use community and that sort of a thing. But, you know, if it is referenced and you can point it out, maybe just point it out, and that way there, as we get there, we can do the rest of our research. But sometimes I just find it a little bit of a challenge to find them.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. Here's what we'll, before sharing these slides, especially on the slides about recent features, we can add links to product documentation. Perhaps that will help.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of where we would find it. And then, you know, we'll learn the words that are needed to search for that sort of detail.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, will do.
Thank you.
And one of our later slides, Bruce, that we go through is just sharing the community page. I've been in discussion with Nikhil and Abhinay and this team about making sure, because we're doing quite a lot of these workshops, that we regularly get this content out and start making it active. So then if there's any questions like this, we can address them and we don't have to wait for when you join these workshops or webinars. But I will
Awesome.
take that as a request, and I'll work with Nikhil and the team. Okay.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your question. Mamadou's asked a question. Even tough, we are set the tenant of our user languages in French. Out of the box dashboards are still displayed in English. The field values and alias, i.e. the status priority, are showed in English. Is that normal?
No. With our we have already extended support for localization, including French, and we look at there are two ways, or you can set languages at two levels. One is for your tenant or for your company, you can set a default language, if that is French. If the admin sets the default language to French, then all of your users will see French. No, the second level is a user on the user profile. So maybe you don't want to set French for everyone. You may still prefer to keep English as the default. However, certain users may set their own language as French or German or a few other languages. So the user's preferred language overrides the company by default. So that's okay. Now, the support for translation varies across different personas. End users, you'll see, especially after you upgrade to 24.3, support for translation is significantly better in 24.3 than in previous features and in previous releases, especially for end users. Those, and in any company, most users are people who never write reports, they just view those reports. So for them, translation is almost everything is translated, including data. So for example, your incident, priority, urgency fields, values like high, medium, low, critical, even these will be translated to whatever language you set. Okay, field labels, they will be shown in what field labels are data. So your incident priority field, if the label is priority, then it will show up as priority everywhere. That cannot be translated because that's data. So we just translate what are called enum fields in ITSM. Those will be translated to whatever language you set. At the moment, we have good support for the admin persona as well. So all the admin pages, not all, but many admin pages, you will see support for translation. We are exploring the possibility of extending translation support to more admin pages. And the third one is the report editor persona. These are users who develop reports routinely. At the moment, we do not have much translation support for this persona because firstly, we realize that all over the world, at least based on our research, we find that all over the world, report developers are usually familiar with English. They don't require translation. We will consider extending translation to this persona over time, but we have not seen this as a major impediment, at least in the developer community. But for end users, certainly, which is why our translation support for end users is extensive. And admins is somewhere in between.
Thanks, Nikhil. I've just unmuted Mamadou. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mamadou, because this was a question that came from you. Can you hear us? I don't know if you're having problems with your mic. Nikhil, hopefully maybe he'll be able to talk shortly, but if we can just obviously consolidate the information and share that. And Mamadou, if you've got any further questions, either write them into the chat or you can reach out to me separately and I'll connect you to Nikhil. Thanks
Yep.
for that, Nikhil.
And
Okay.
then
Yes, sir, go on.
Jess has asked a question about, can variables be set to remember user selection rather than a dashboard default? Ajinkya, do you know the answer to this question?
Yes. So in the Helix dashboard, we have an option where user can set their variable values as a default value. So on the right top, we have this filter icon where user can save their current variable value as a default value. So whenever same user logged in next time in the Helix dashboard, they will see the same filter applied for that particular dashboard. I think that's the question, right?
Yes, thanks.
Yes, it was. Thank you. I think I was reading that icon as an administrative icon since I am one. So that helps. I will test that out with some users.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks. Jess,
Thanks.
did you have any other questions while you're off mute?
Probably, but I don't have them prepared. So thank
Okay.
you.
Well, there is this opportunity. If there are any questions, then feel free to raise your hand, or towards the end, if you want to ask us any questions, it's not a problem, because obviously
Actually,
these are the
yes.
type of questions to help. Go for
Sorry,
it.
I do have one that's related to that last one. Is there a way to load a dashboard blank to prevent it from loading raw data without having a selection from a user to ensure that it doesn't go hard on the database?
Not at the moment, but yes, we see merit in your suggestion.
Okay. I have some ideas on how to work around it, but I was curious. So thank you.
Sure.
I'll just quickly go back to Mamadou. Do you want to try and see if you can come off mute again, because we couldn't hear you? I know you were trying to connect with us. Do you want to talk? Try again. We can't hear anything. I think he's definitely got problems with mic. Okay. Mamadou, if you just want to write something in the Q&A, I'll pick that up when we get through there. And I can see, Bruce, that you're raising your hand. So if you want to come off mute and talk to us, because I was just about to get to your questions. Hello.
Hi. Then I probably should lower my hand.
That's okay. So your first question, feel free to ask it to the team rather than me have to read it and probably read it badly.
Sure.
So go ahead.
Is there any way to burst sections like in the old business objects crystal reporting? There was the ability to burst sections of a report out to users so that when you are distributing something, it only sends them the section of the report that's relevant, yet maybe someone else with broader privileges can see the overview easier.
Yes, that's a roadmap item.
Oh, okay.
That's a roadmap item. Thanks, Bruce.
You bet. Thank you.
Do you want to ask your other questions, or are they all combined? Because I've seen a few in the chat. We might as well stay with you, Bruce.
I lost my connectivity, and so it erased my question. So if you could remind me of them.
So your next one was about the difference between template vs value.
Oh yeah, earlier when you were doing the variable in the Visual Studio Editor, there was, you had a selection of template or value, and I just wanted to understand what those differences were, if that makes sense.
Ajinkya, can you take this one?
Sorry. Bruce, can you please again?
So earlier when you were doing the demo and you were in the Visual Studio Editor and you selected, like, say, priority as a filter, and then you went to select the value that popped up was, a template value or value, a template or a value. And I just wasn't quite sure what that stretch yet is. I don't have enough experience around that to know what the differences are.
The values which are getting populated only for the enum fields. So in the ITSM, there is a type called enum, okay, for which the values are fixed. So priority, always values will be critical, medium, high, and low. So likewise, there are many assignee, not assignee. The severity is also one of the enum field. So depending on the enum field, we query AR database and fetch those values so that For a enum, user don't need to actually type the value. They can simply select from the drop-down. So the fields for which the pre-existing values are available, those will be listed in the VQB.
Okay, I don't know if I understood the answer, but I will detail it out in a question and send it to you all, and send
Bruce,
some screenshots.
If you
Sure.
send it to me with the screenshots, I'll add it into the Q&A for the guys to review. So it's all in one, because it might be of interest for other customers as well. If you want to do that, just obviously
Exactly. Yes,
blur
ma'am.
out
Thank you.
stuff that you don't want to share. And then you had your final question, which was in legacy remedy, we could pull who set a status value and at what time they did it.
Well,
I
think that, yeah, I think it was answered a little bit earlier. You know, there is in the legacy system, you can, you know, when you set a value, it gives you the who and the when. And sometimes in calculations and stuff, that can be valuable depending on what you're trying to report out. I know that when we went to smart reporting, we had to do some, you know, fancy stuff to make a table that pulled that data in separately because it wasn't available visually. It was only in legacy that you could see it, or of course in business objects, but again, different reporting tool. I just was wondering if are those values even being used anymore? Is that particular evaluation, you know, recording who did what, who changed the status and at what time? Oops, I think I lost connection.
Okay. Not sure, but Bruce, so this question is related to incidents, let's say incidents information, or it's a general, like on the Helix dashboard, you're talking like who changed the status. On the incidents you're referring to?
I think he may have lost connection again.
Oh, okay.
Bruce, he got muted and then he lost his connection. Bruce, can you hear us? I've just given you access to talk again. I think he's reconnected. I don't know if he can hear us. We'll come back to Bruce's and get some more detail. I can see, Sarika, you'd put your hand up. Let me just unmute you so you can ask your question. Let's see if we can connect you. Can you hear us, Sarika?
Hey, Samantha.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. Yeah, thanks a lot. So what I was trying to understand is, I know this conversion tool and this view migrator was tested using OpenJDK, but can we also have this tested with Zulu Java and let us know, because our organization is allowed to use only Zulu Java, and we are currently, you know, in the phase of exporting reports from smart reporting to Helix dashboard, and we already had an assistance from BMC using a support ticket where we had the demo of how to use the migration tool, but unfortunately when we try using it with our Zulu, it is not working. So can you please make sure it works and it's compatible with Zulu Java also?
What is Zulu Java?
It's based out of OpenJDK and it's an Azul Java basically.
Okay, we'll find out and let you know later.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Sarika. Is there any other questions while you're off mute?
Not really.
Okay. If you do have any other questions, feel free to raise your hand again or put it into the Q&A section of Zoom. Next question was from Lillian. If you have two visualizations and want to apply variable filters individually, so I don't know, let me just see if Lillian is still on. Lillian, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can. Did I pronounce your name right? Just checking first. Okay, wonderful. Hello. Do you want to ask your question to the team?
Yes, so if you have in one dashboard multiple visualization and you want to add different variables, for example, when you add one variable, default, it's available for all visualization in that dashboard. And if we want to make them individually, every visualization with his variable.
Yeah, I can answer that. So in the variable or in the dashboard, variable is another section. We can create a panel, multiple panels using different visualization. And we can have multiple variables on the top of the Helix dashboard or a particular dashboard. Unless you link these variable to the panel query, that will not take any effect. So if you have two panels and two variables, you can link them separately so that it will take a effect separately whenever you select any variable.
And if it's the same field,
Even if it is
for
the same
example,
thing,
service,
because
we
every
need to create
panel,
it twice or third time with the same name, right?
yes, you have to create with the different name so that you can distinguish between the variable.
There is no other option to add the same one for each, because if they have 10 reports, I don't know if I will have the idea to find 10 different names to the same thing, like business service, for example, or affected service.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just understand what use case you are trying to do. You have one panel and one variable, which is business service. And in that panel, you are showing some information about the selected business service. Let's say you select service A, and that information is displayed in the first panel. Then you have a second panel where you want to display information for another service, right?
Yes.
Not the service A. Okay. So we cannot use the same variable again in multiple places if you want to change the value dynamically, or whenever user selects the variable, you have to create a different variable as of now. But as Nikhil
if I create with different labels, it will work, it will accept?
It will accept if you give different label and different ID, and that if you link it, it will work.
I mean, I said reverse, same label but different ID name.
That will also work. I'll just quickly give a try, but definitely that will also work.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Lillian. Do you have any other questions before I move to the next question?
No, but first time you said the name correctly. Second time.
Okay. It's always hard. Lillian. Not Julian. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Sorry, I will make sure I say it next time. Oh. Thank you for your question. So just going back to Mamadou, Nikhil, he has got a problem with his mic, so he's come back with his additional question he was asking was, or just explain, he's in version 2402 and his user setting is French. Should they raise a case if there's still the problem? I'm guessing you're going to say yes to go through support.
Yeah. Yes, that will be helpful. We can quickly check.
Okay, so Mamadou, if you raise a case, and if you want to send me the ID once you've done that, I can share that with the team just so they can keep track with support for you. We've got one more question and then we'll go back to the final few slides that we've got. So Thomas asks a question, for the metadata editor app, could you repeat where we could get the information from the profile file?
Okay, for the profile file, we need user secret and key, okay, access key and secret. So that we can take from the Helix portal, which is our landing page. You can go to right top where you have this user profile. You can click on my profile and there you can see an option for creating access key. So there, if you create access key, you will get a key and secret that you can use in the profile.property file. Thomas, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. When I copy that, the key is it's copy. Sorry, all in one line and separate with 2 dots. That would be the key and the access key.
Yeah. So first part of that particular string that you get when you click on copy to clipboard, the first part before comma or colon, which is your key, and second part is a secret.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Thomas, does that answer your question? And if you have
Sorry?
any, I said, does that answer your question? If you have any problems, let us know. Okay, wonderful, thank you. Just before we go back to the slides, Bruce, I can see you're raising your hand again. You seem to be back with us. Hello.
Thank you. And the dog sounds really cute. I have 5 animal rescues, so I'm an animal person. Is there any way within the Helix dashboards to query? I know that the web reporting inside of Legacy Remedy was useful for a lot of people. It made it just easy for them to build their own simple queries without, utilizing the robust tool and just putting junk in there. Is there any way to query that system through Helix dashboards to determine what reports are actually run, used, just like we can get with smart reporting or even in Helix dashboards where we can get a usage? But in the conversion process, since you're not going to be converting those reports, is there a way for us to get statistics to say, is this report even of any value? Like, has anybody even looked at it? Or, we don't know if you've emailed it and looked at it, but, when was the last time this report was run? I don't recall anything in Legacy to do that, but can Helix pull that kind of information so that we can convert those reports as well? I hope I didn't confuse you.
Abhinay, you know about web reporting?
No, I'm not familiar with that, Bruce. We can check and get back to you on this one.
Yes,
but
sir.
My best guess would be probably not. Or maybe there could be a way to create a custom view and then query something, but not really sure. Need to check.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bruce.
One more question. So, Bruce, you have that web reporting already with you in your environment running, where we can verify if we have any other solution for it or any other workaround for it to get the data in the Helix dashboard?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Was that a question for the gentleman that's on the screen right now, or was that for me?
It was a question to you, just asking if you've got a copy of your web reporting, so they could look at potentially another solution if you've got that data to get it into Helix.
I don't have that data in Helix. This is just again in jumping back many years with the internal reporting and Remedy in Legacy, where users could make a query and then pass it to a report and build their own simple report. That particular reporting solution is simple yet robust enough for a lot of users to get the data they need. But I don't have anything. I can send you screenshots of what I'm trying to do, but I haven't figured out a way to pull that data into a report yet.
Okay, so just a few more things. Maybe in the Helix dashboard, we have the SQL option for service management, where user can type any SQL, any valid SQL, and that SQL will get executed on the AR database and you'll get the data. So if you have any simple SQL, you can try using that SQL option where you can just place the SQL and create a simple dashboard in the Helix dashboard.
Okay, and I apologize, I'm not sure if that answered my question, but I'm not sure if I'm asking the question correctly. So let me formulate it and send it to our narrator. I
That's
forgot your
fine.
name.
You can send it to me,
Thank you.
Samantha, and I can share it with the
Samantha,
team. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll do that. Thank you,
Sure.
Samantha.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. That's all our questions that we've got at the moment, and thank you for everyone that's given those questions. I just wanted to make sure that we could give you a bit of a chance to talk. We'll have a few more minutes at the end. So there was a couple of slides, Abhinay, that we hadn't finished around resources. So I'm going to take us back to the slide deck if that's okay, and then we can kind of wrap up if that's all right with everyone.
So here are a few resources and they touch upon all the things that we have discussed during this session. Number one stop for everyone would be the documentation page. Whatever we discussed, we've tried to put, I think there was one question and a comment related to this. So there are links throughout the slide deck, but if you don't find anything, please do reach out and we can provide that. All the information is in the docs. Next slide, please. Again, a very useful resource would be all the education content available in BMC Academy. You would have done a couple of prerequisite courses before attending this session, but there are many more courses available and they touch upon all different aspects: the migration, the service management side of reporting, and the ITOM side of reporting. So please do take a look. You may find some of those helpful. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and just before we move on, I know a few customers did reach out to say that they hadn't had the sign up for the education. I will address that with the team and make sure that you get that sent out. That's the 2 courses that is free training. It's roughly around 4 hours, so I'll make sure that gets sent out post-event. And then we move on to our community, Abhinay.
All right. So we talked about communities in context of looking for some of the ready-built dashboard. So, but community provides much more than that. So you definitely get all the community contributed content, the dashboard. So you see few of those listed at the bottom of the slide. So you have one, for example, for Kubernetes container health. And if you had something like this, or you wanted to build something like that, so instead of doing it on your own from scratch, you can reuse but then again, you can use community for raising new ideas. And if you have an enhancement request, you can put in that idea. Others can vote upon that. You can ask questions. So there are a lot of people from within BMC as well as from the user base who can potentially answer your question. So do ask questions, and the team, a lot of people from within BMC would be publishing a lot of content on the communities, knowledge articles, blogs, and so on. So again, a very helpful resource. Let's go to the next one, Sam. All right, that's the last one I have. So if you need help on this transition, so you can reach out to BMC Professional Services, and we have 2 catalog offerings related to Helix Dashboards. The one on the left is more specific to migrating from smart reporting to Helix Dashboard, and the one on the right you see is more relevant if you are building from scratch on Helix Dashboard. Now, both have a similar structure. They start with a workshop. So architect from PS will work with you, understand your requirement, and then create a deployment plan or solution design for you. And then our expert works with you to implement the solution design built by the architect, followed by a knowledge transfer. So now the one on the left is time bound. So you get the access to the expert for the conversion for 200 hours, and as many reports that can be done in those 200 hours will be done, and a knowledge transfer given to you. While one on the right is more focused on the number of dashboards, so different complexities, and we show it to you how that can be built. That's it from my side.
Okay, and it just leads us to a couple of the reminders of the past links. Obviously, the smart reporting to Helix dashboards typically are the same content that we've been sharing today. Working with this team, we are looking at reducing this and compacting it into a shorter session.